All right, so here we are with lesson 5 in the 3D chapter, and this will be our last lesson with anything really relatively new. So today you're not really doing anything new, but we're going to kind of break it down so that you can solve some word problems with three-dimensional shapes. So taking a look at the first one, Joe is wrapping a gift box in the shape of a right rectangular prism. The dimensions of the box are 5 by 6 by 2 inches. Construct a net of this prism and determine the minimum amount of wrapping paper needed to completely wrap the gift. Okay, so the first section asks you, is it a cylinder or rectangular prism? So we can go back and highlight, it is a right rectangular prism. And then the second box asks, is it surface area or volume? So we want to construct a net and determine the minimum amount of wrapping paper. So we know that wrapping paper covers the outer surface of a box. Therefore, this is surface area. All right, so it does ask us to construct a net right here. So a net is the flat, like kind of uncut version of the box. So we know that we have rectangles in the box. So what I like to do when I draw my net is I draw the rectangle large first, and then I kind of make 4 of the faces, 2 of them being a little bit larger, and I didn't really appropriately section that off. So let's try that again. So we have a rectangle, then we have kind of the other side of the rectangle, and then we have that bottom. So obviously the top and the third one down should be about the same. Remember, you're not going to be perfect at drawing these. And then you obviously need the side pieces. So I'm just going to draw mine off this top box here. And then we have to pay attention to the measurements. So it says the dimensions of the box are 5 by 6. So just go with, what makes the most sense. So when I'm looking at this one, what makes the most sense is that this side is 5 and this side is 6. And then you're missing the measurement of 2. So if you're looking across at this net, you have to have this piece be 2, which would make all of these pieces right here 2 inches. And then if I'm looking at the inches, the pieces that are 5, we know that this piece and this piece are 5, that and that are 5, because these are all the horizontal measurements. And then we know that anything that wraps around the middle of it, they are all going to be those 6-inch measurements. Now, just because I'm visually showing this on my iPad, that's why I'm putting all these markings in. You do not need to put all the markings in, but you obviously need to focus on the 6 different faces, 2 of the same for each. So I'm going to highlight those. So I'm going to start with this one over here on this side. This one is 5 by 2. So when I do that area, 5 times 2 gives me 10. Which means the other one across from it is also 10. Then moving on to the second type of face. So we have this face here that I'm putting in green. We know that one is 5 by 6. So it means one that looks very similar to it is also 5 by 6, which leads us to an area of 30. And then last, you should have the next 2 matching, which are here in blue. And those are each 6 by 2, which are 12. And then I'm going to take all the measurements and I'm going to add them up. So 30, 30, 10, 10, 12, 12. So 30 plus 30, it gives me 60. This gives me 20. This gives me 24. And when I add those all up together, I get 60, 80, 104. So my total surface area for that wrapping paper is 104, and this was calculated in inches, so inches squared. All right, moving on to problem number 2. Mariah is filling a terrarium in the shape of a rectangular prism with sand for her tarantula. The terrarium will be 1/4 of the way full of sand. If the length of the terrarium is 18 by 10 by 12 inches in height, what is the volume that is the sand that she uses? So we're going to go back and we're going to look, what type of shape are we looking at? And it says it here in the first sentence, we're looking at a rectangular prism. Second question, are we finding surface area or volume? Well, we are filling it up with sand 1/4 of the way. So when we fill something, we know it is the inside space of the shape or the volume. So I'm going to draw this shape 3-dimensionally for you. If you are not great at drawing 3-dimensional shapes, it's okay. What I like to do is draw the rectangle, put 2 going backward at a slant, draw this so I can have a slant there. And I have somewhat of a rectangular terranium for my tarantula. I'm going to put those measures in. 18 says is the length. It says the width across is 10, and it says the height is 12. So I'm going to kind of match those up. Even though I know volume's pretty straightforward with rectangular prism, it doesn't really matter where you put those measurements. So volume equals length times width times height. I have 12 times 10 times 18. I know that 12 times 10 is 120. And believe it or not, I forgot my calculator to do this. So we're going to do some hand math. So 120 times 18, this gives me 0, 16, and 9. Put my placeholder in, I get 0, 2, and 1. Add those up, and I get a volume of 2160. But remember to go back and make sure you're answering. We only wanted to fill this 1/4 of the way through. So we're going to take this and either multiply by 1/4 or divide by 4 to get our total volume. So I'm going to do this off to the bottom here. So I get 2160 divided by 4. That goes in 5 times. That goes in 4 times. Obviously 4 does not go into 0, so our volume is 540. Make sure you get your label right, inches cubed. Moving on to problem number 3. Popcorn is sold in a cylindrical tub that has a diameter of 6 and a height of 10. If the popcorn costs 5 cents per cubic inch, what is the cost of filling the cylinder with popcorn? So we've heard the word cylinder and cylindrical twice, so we know we're working with a cylinder here. And we're going to fill it with popcorn. So again, the inside space indicates we're finding its volume. So I'm going to draw a brief cylinder here. I just draw a circle, and then I put that in. And then I'm going to measure it with a diameter of 6. Nothing fancy about your drawing. It's totally fine. And a height of 10. Remembering that volume is pi times r squared h. So I have 3.14 r squared. So they gave us diameter of 6. So r squared is 3, because I need half that for the radius, times 10. So I'm going to do the math that I can do without writing it down first. So I know that 3 squared is 9, and 9 times 10 is 90. So I do need to come off to the side here and take my 3.14 times 90. Good practice to see this by hand. So I get all zeros in the first row. I put a placeholder in. This gives me 36. That gives me 9 plus 3 is 12. And 3 times 9 is 27 plus 1 is 28. Add those all up. Don't forget to move your decimal over 2 places. So I get 282.6 for my cylinder's volume. But don't forget, we want to know the cost it is to fill that up with 5 cents. So I am going to put in that 5 cents and multiply it. This should only take you 1 row of multiplication. So that gives me 0, 30, 13, 41, and 14. I do have to go over 4 spaces to get that dollar amount. So that is equivalent to $14.13 exactly to fill up that cylinder. All right, last problem. A can of soup in the shape of a cylinder is 10 centimeters tall and has a diameter of 6 centimeters. A label covers the entire can except the top and bottom. Construct a net of the cylinder and determine the area covered by the label. So we're constructing a net. Net should lead us to believe, and we're determining the area covered by the label, that we're working with a cylinder. And we're finding its surface area. So I'm going to construct that net. Now keep in mind this cylinder is 10 centimeters tall and this has a diameter of 6, but we're only covering this area right here. This should be the rectangular prism. All right, so we are only covering the top piece. So remember, this is the area of the lateral base. So it has a height of 10. And this diameter, remember, this is H, and this is pi RH. I'm sorry, not pi RH, pi R. Squared. So we are just going to do those pieces. 3.14 times 3 squared. Sorry, my drawing kind of fell apart. Times 10. So we get 3.14 times 90. And if you remember back up here, we kind of already did that for part of the volume. And that gave us 282.60. And remember, we are only covering the space. So we are done. And that is it. Have a great Tuesday.